Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm playing a deck at the request of a donor, and this is a ninjas deck. Now we've played ninjas on the channel recently and it felt pretty good to me, to be honest. This is a slightly different build where we're leveraging some different aspects here. So this one has forgone the Retrofitter's Foundry and the 1 mana 1/1 unblockable guy whose name I'm blanking on right now, but it's gotten rid of those and it's just trying to be a lot more like a classic sort of blue-black tempo strategy with more interactive good cards. So we have more removal in this list than we did in the list we played before. We've also got a main deck Nihil Spellbomb because blue-black Reanimator is everywhere. So what we're trying to do here is use our Ornithopters and Tamiyos to then attack with them, flip them back into our hand to put in a ninja like Yuriko, Ingenious Infiltrator, or Kaito. So Ingenious Infiltrator and Yuriko are kind of like Psychic Frog if you look at them sideways, so it's like we're running many copies of Psychic Frog here. That's kind of the jam. What I will say though is because we have none of the 1 mana 1/1, we're going to get less pumps and stuff off of our Kaito here, and we're not going to be able to trigger these with our unblockable creature in the same way. So that's something I'm already looking about with this deck to wonder how it will play. We do have Orcish Bowmasters, which we can reset using our ninjas, so we can pop this in, blow something up, save it, after we attack, jump it back to our hand to then reuse the ping in on a mana dork or whatever. So that can be quite useful. And yeah, we have a bunch of good cards, right? So we've got our Force of Wills, we've got our Dazes, classic tempo cards here. We've got our Brainstorms and Ponders to keep the wheels going. We've got Psychic Frog because it's just the best thing you can be doing in Legacy. We've got ourselves some Murderous Cuts, some Sheoldred's Edicts and some Fatal Pushes to deal with creatures, and the aforementioned Nihil Spellbomb. The mana base is very basic land heavy, and we are fitting in a couple of Sink into Stupor, which is a blue card for Force of Will, and is a land that we can sometimes use as a spell. Because we want to largely be on the front foot, the 3 life is obviously not as big a deal, but being exposed to Wasteland might end up being a big deal. So we have to see how that feels. You have to also remember this is not an island, so it won't make Daze playable by bouncing. Although, there are situations where you can bounce Sink into Stupor with a Daze, and that is where we have our sideboard Harbinger of the Seas in play. So that's kind of an interesting interaction that maybe will come up, hopefully does. But our sideboard, we've got Harbinger of the Seas and Back to Basics to try and hate on all these people with their, Eldrazi mana bases and whatnot. Got ourselves Consign to Memory to help fight some Eldrazi Menace. We got some Hand Disruption, Perish to blow up a load of green creatures like from the Cradle Control and the Nadu style deck lists. Dauthi Voidwalker is a bit more graveyard hate alongside the Faerie Macabre. We've also got some Null Rods and some Explosives, so we got a little bit of sweeper action. We can also blow up some permanents that we might struggle to blow up within our colour pattern. And then we also have the Null Rods, like I said. This is going to hate against the Khan Forges of the world. So, that's the deck list. I'm excited to play it out. If you want to check out the previous Ninjas League that we ran, I will put that in the description so you can check it out. It felt pretty good then, so let's see if it feels good today. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to watch my videos early, you can become a YouTube member for just £1 a month to do exactly that. Alright, let's get ninja-ing. We're on the play for round 1. We have an Ornithopter, we have an Ingenious Infiltrator. We do not have the mana we are needing to play our Yuriko, though. We don't have a cantrip to find it either. So keeping this comes at quite the cost, because our hand might just do nothing here. So I think we have to mulligan. If we had a cantrip, I'd keep it, but we don't. Actually, let's check how many sources we're drawing to. So on our list, we have 8 fetch lands, 3 swamps, 1 underground sea. That's 12 plus 8 cantrips. So that's a third of our deck. Am I comfortable in having to draw, let's say, 3 cards to get this going? I don't think so. I think we have to mulligan this. It's annoying, but I would like to be able to play my spells. This one is fine. It's not as exciting, but we'll keep it. So what are we looking at doing here? We could probably just play a Psychic Frog and protect it with Force of Will, which means we're probably looking at binning off the Murderous Cut here, because the Kaito can kind of be removable, but it can also be a blue card for Force of Will. We begin with the Polluted Delta, which gives us the ability to find an Undercity Sewers if we want to do that, but we can just play off of basics here. So unless our opponent shows us that we're going to be safe from Wasteland effects, then we're going to go and get our basics. Inundated Archive. So the only deck that I know that plays this is Grixis Control, which does not have any Wastelands in. Do I want to take that risk? I think so. Getting this extra Surveil action here is just really worth it. A Polluted Delta. I don't think we need that yet. Rid of that one. Well, we've got the lands to cast our spells. So we're going to get ourselves an island here because we've already got the swamp in hand. We need to lead off with the best creature in the format, Psychic Frog. A Vexing Bauble from our opponent. This means that the Force of Will in our hand is no good anymore. But we can either pitch 2 cards to stop them having a Vexing Bauble, or we can just have this as a counter on our Psychic Frog. I think that's going to be better most of the time. If we had a second force, or like a second free spell, and that changes things. This countering Ornithopter might be a weird thing that comes up as well. Alright, so we're not on Grixis now. Curiouser and Curiouser. Attack with a Frog. I'll discard this Force of Will just to get a bit more damage on the go. Ingenious Infiltrator. Let's just get another Psychic Frog down. If we can draw 2 additional cards a turn, that should be alright. Although, I'm getting some sort of combo feel from our opponent, like Vexing Bauble as a protective element. And then this is quite an interesting selection of lands to see. I don't think I've ever seen this combination of lands together. Now, they might not be running black. They might just be running this as like a blue card for Force of Will. It can also tutor for an instant. So maybe it's some kind of Omniscience deck. And then they're using this to go and find Cunning Wish or whatever. So they have Omniscience, but it can also be a land in a pinch. Maybe that's what they're doing. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Show and tell. And Atraxa. Let's see what they reveal. Right, looks like my read was correct. What are we doing about what our opponent has here? Born Upon a Wind is interesting. I guess the idea is that in response to someone trying to blow up your Omniscience, you can then waterlog Teachings for the Born Upon a Wind, play the Born Upon a Wind, and then play all your cards over the top. It's kind of interesting tech. So what do they take? Show and Tell, City Traders, Vexing Bauble, Veil of Summer. Okay, so we can beat this. We do have to throw all of our creatures at our opponent's face here, and then turn one of them into an Ingenious Infiltrator. Discard a Vexing Bauble, sure. Sorry, not we turn it into a Kaito, and then we tap their guy down. Now, they might just be able to go again with another Show and Tell here. But they didn't find an Omniscience, and they didn't have an Omniscience, so I think you just play the Omniscience right there and then. It's actually better for us to bounce the Frog here, because we get to draw, because this is a ninja, we get to draw twice. Because the Ingenious Infiltrator will see the Kaito hitting. Tap this and put some stun counters on it. Get out of here. And then we have to try and kill our opponent before the Atraxa untaps, because they can sit back with the Veil of Summer, so we never get to tap down their Atraxa. So that was our one window to do that. So we get 2 attack steps to try and make this work. And we're just making anthems with our Kaito to improve the size of our ninjas. Planar Genesis. This is intuition. Sorry, not intuition. Impulse. But they can put a land from those top 4 into play instead of putting the card into their hand. Alright, they're putting a Show and Tell into play. What are we going to do about that? I think we'll probably just put in the most expensive thing that's the hardest thing to get in. An Emrakul. Alright, that's quite a large creature, isn't it? So we can tap this down and bash for a bunch. But it will cost us our Kaito. I don't think we have a choice here. We at least get to draw some cards though. Because these both see each other, so we get to draw 4 cards here. Fighting the good fight. So what do we need to get out of a situation like this? We could brainstorm. I think we need to brainstorm into not these cards. Okay, so Ornithopter we can't cast at all because of Vexing Bauble, so that's no good. This is not really a Null Spellbomb matchup either. Play this, crack this, go and get an island, I think. And then we get 1 spell if we're looking for an Edict effect here. We need to Edict twice. Or removal spell, then Edict sort of thing. So I think we are pondering here. I think we need to shuffle this one. Okay, so we didn't hit the things we needed. So that means we are on making a Frog. They don't untap their Atraxa this turn. And then we just have to try and kill our opponent next turn. Is that possible? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Might be difficult to do. But if we can find like a Yuriko, maybe we can try and stack stuff with a Yuriko trigger. I think the Psychic Frog there is better than the Bowmasters. The Bowmasters can hit some of their cantrips, but we have 1 window before this Atraxa is ready to kill us. So we're going to be looking for removal again. We have 2 cantrips to help us do that, as well as all these draws off of our Infiltrators. It's not often that you have 2 Show and Tells cast by your opponent that resolve, and you're still in the game. So we can at least take solace in that. Oh, I've not seen this island before. Alright, a Ponder. They've got 2 colourless mana floating, so they've got plenty of ability to play some spells around and try and get Show and Tell on the stack again. They have already cast 2 of them. Planar Genesis. We're not countering that because it's not going to work because of the Vexing Bauble. But if they get in a situation where they're cracking the Vexing Bauble looking for more action, that's where the Dazes come online. Otherwise, they just go into the Frog. Ponder. Okay, so this is unlikely to result in a show and tell this turn. Okay. I think we start off with a Brainstorm. This back. And this back. So we have a line that works for us here. So we attack with everything. We probably bounce the Frog back. And then we get to... Do we bounce the Frog back? We can just bounce one Infiltrator back. And that's still fine, isn't it? We draw less cards by doing this. But we do more damage, so we can kill our opponent next turn. I think that's correct. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's half our opponent's life total. Correct this because you don't want to draw the cards on top. So now we're just going to cast the Kaito as a 4-mana spell, rather than flipping any of these back, because that way we get more cards. I think that is better. Our opponent can't cast any counter spells because of their own Vexing Bauble. So I've got 8 cards in hand, so I'll discard a card so we don't have to discard to hand size. Do I need a fail push? Probably not. Yeah, so if we flip the Kaito in instead, we deal 1 more damage, but we draw a lot less cards, because this package alone draws 4 cards. If we just have this, we draw 2 cards. So we get double the number of cards, and the damage isn't the issue there. What else are we playing? Maybe a Sheoldred's Edict, I guess. Okay, are we just getting done here? Another Atraxa. So our plan probably involves Kaitoing this, and then I kind of wish we had that fatal push now. We could push our own guy. It's an interesting line. Yeah, so the line probably involves Kaitoing this and then hard casting a Force of Will to counter their Veil of Summer, but it depends what they take here. This is their 3rd show and tell though, so they're unlikely to have a 4th one immediately. But they do have this Yuriko. So the Yuriko gives them Omniscience, Emrakul. And then that's going to be very difficult to come back from. What do they take? Omniscience, Yuriko, Waterlog Teachings, Emrakul, Yuriko. I think we lose this one, don't we? We can put some more permanents in, so we have more things to sacrifice. So now they cast the Emrakul in their hand, they get an extra turn. So we chump block with the Tamiyo. The Emrakul doesn't get countered by the Vexing Bauble because the Emrakul says it can't be countered. So they get this. They annihilate our permanents. So we lose, how many is this? 6. So we can chump block here, take 7. They go up to 11. And then we kill them on the crackback. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously they have an Omniscience in play. But Omniscience and Vexing Bauble is a bit of a weird combo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just getting rid of all of my lands. Is that what we're doing here? Sheoldred's Edict. How likely is this going to be a useful spell here? They're both coming at me and not Kaito. Chump block Big Emma. We take 7. We can name Kaito their Atraxa. They have the Veil of Summer for it. They're casting Veil of Summer now. That's interesting. Oh, okay, yeah. So now they can cast everything for free through the Vexing Baubles. That is just what their deck does. Okay, what are they going to find with this? Cunning Wish. Sure, they're going to Cunning Wish here. Let's just see what they find. We did well to get through this much of the game before losing. Just want to see what they're getting for. Shared Summons. They're just going to go and find another Emrakul and do it all over again. Alright, we put up very much the good fight there. Didn't quite work for us. So, Thoughtseizes I would very much like to have access to. Other cards, not so much. Like, Back to Basics is something that they can play around quite easily. Hundred of the Seas, similar deal. Consign to Memory, we can counter an Emrakul trigger. Or an Atraxa trigger. That might be good enough, considering that fatal pushes are really bad here. And the Nihil Spellbomb. So we need to find one more cut to fit all this in. Daze, it's fine. Yuriko, Sinker to Stupor, actively good. Murderous Cut is a way that we can get rid of an Atraxa if it's just an Atraxa. Same with the Edict. How many of this effect do we need is the question. I think once they start doing their big monster stuff, then we're kind of in trouble. This way we can stop the Atraxa from reloading. We've got Kaito and 3 removal spells. Wouldn't mind having some kind of force of negation action. Obviously, our opponent can play around that. They've got 8 effects that stop their spells being countered, one way or the other. Okay, we're on the play. We can Ornithopter into Yuriko with a little bit of counter magic. Fine. It'll do. It's what our deck does. So we can get ourselves an Undercity Sewers if we want the Surveil. Alternatively, we can just get some other island for the purposes of Daze. We definitely want double island here. Do I care about this Vexing Bauble? Maybe. I think we're going to Consign to Memory this, because that leaves all our Dazes online. So they were specifically playing around Daze there. We didn't really want to be dazing anyway. We want to be making sure that we make our Yuriko on 2. Back comes the Ornithopter. Hello, Yuriko. And we'll play our thing that gets countered by future Vexing Baubles. Our opponent's Ancient Tomb is going to help us out. We are trying to beat our opponent down with combat damage. No straight sending the spooky card. So no show and tell for us just there. So we draw an Undercity Sewers. So we could play the Undercity Sewers. We could play a Tamiyo, have Force of Will blue card, and Daze available. Yeah, I like that. We have one less counter spell by playing out this Tamiyo, but it furthers our board and makes future turns a lot better. Surveil on. Another Tamiyo. Does not require another one. We're going to see some kind of Intuition or Cunning Wish, I suspect. We can bounce back our Undercity Sewers for that sweet, sweet value here. Right, our opponent's cracking their Misty. A Yuriko. A Daze here is the same as a Force of Will. I don't believe our opponent is running any sort of cantrips. Not cantrips. Spirit Guide, fast mana type thing. So I got cantrips on the brain because I would really like to draw one. Let's see if our Daze goes through. Now we need to find a blue card. So we've got Tamiyo plus Clue Crack to do that, as well as this Yuriko trigger. Find a blue card, please. A Brainstorm is a blue card. That's the sort of thing we're looking for anyway, so we don't need to crack anything. We can just play this out and try and get our opponent with a Bowmasters, seems fine. But we have Force of Will around Daze, so I don't really just want to fire the Bowmasters. I'd rather pay around a Daze, but we can wait to see what our opponent does. See, we could try and get our opponent here with this Bowmasters, but like I said, I want to be able to pay around Daze if our opponent tries to send it again. I'd like to have access to Force of Will Brainstorm. They did not shuffle off the ponder, so they found something they want. Show and tell. So we can also crack the clue looking for a Daze. Alright, our opponent's just given up to that. Counter magic, pressure, good. Alright, I think we just go for it again here. They are playing quite heavily into back to basics, but I still don't think it's worth playing. Like, it's quite slow for what it does, and we'd have to take out some of the tools that actually are part of either our game plan or our disruptions. We have a counter spell. We have a Psychic Frog. Then we can keep this one. I wonder if our opponent is even running Daze. If they're just running like full Eureka, Vexing Bauble, Veil of Summer, just send it. Maybe they don't have space for those. And then like the Force of Will is like a sideboard card for them. Soporific Springs into Vexing Bauble. If we counterspell this, we don't have much else going on. Alright, that's unfortunate. I think the plan here is to bounce this at the right time. I think we are on Undercity Sewers time. Surveil a bit. A Force of Will, I don't really want that, do I? So we can either bin this Force of Will off to the Psychic Frog, or we can sink into Stupor on turn 3 to bounce the Bauble and then counter their spell. But if they just send it right now, we could be in heaps of trouble. Alright, that is not the mana that sends it. This is going to be a little impulse, the Plane of Genesis card. Okay, let's just try and get some of these lands out of our deck. So if we get one more turn, we just untap and we just hold up with our Psychic Frog with a little bit of permission from the sink into Stupor. This is the turn we don't want our opponent to kill us. Well, we don't want our opponent to kill us on any turn, let's be honest. But this particular turn, we don't really have much recourse. Show and tell. I guess we put in our Vista. That is an Emrakul. Am I brainstorming? If I brainstorm at a turn, that gives me more mana if I find another cantrip. But then we are drawing the same card again. Or one of the same cards. I think because we are looking for a specific thing and we have 2 potential cantrips lined up. Okay, so let's cast the first one. Well, 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 if it isn't a bunch of rubbish. Hello, bunch of rubbish. Okay, so we'll play this out. We'll crack this to get an Underground Sea, just to give us the most amount of options here. Sink into Stupor can't target this, because it has protection from coloured spells. So we are looking for our Edict. Did not find the Edict. So we're just going to lose all of our stuff. Yeah, that'll do. We put up a good fight, but we just could not take the match down. Let's go to round 2. We got some good cards. We can keep these. Our opponent has a Tamiyo. I guess we're also going to have a Tamiyo, except our opponent's on the play, so maybe it's not going to be good enough. But we'll see. Let's crack this. We'll play on basics because we can. Get our little Tamiyo friend. Alright, so we're going to have dueling Tamiyos. They have a Psychic Frog as well to follow it up with. The classic blue-black curve these days. The Tamiyo tells us that our opponent is most likely on a sort of fair Dimir tempo deck. rather than the Reanimator deck, because those decks have mostly cut their Tamiyos in favour of Metamorphosis Fanatic. Alright, so we're going to block here just in case our opponent is ninjas. There's no reason not to block there. Let's crack this now, see if we can get our basic. Attack with our Tamiyo. So ninjutsu is uncounterable, so I don't mind jamming this one in. Alright, we just get to hit with it as well. Okay, not bad. We're drawing cards, we've got Force of Will. Got Bowmasters, which is very good in this sort of matchup. 3 black mana. A Doomsday, you say? No, thank you. Tamiyo served its purpose. I think we can get rid of the frog. So our opponent's on Doomsday. So they are on an unfair shell, but they are on a different unfair shell. There is a Daze. We cannot pay for the Daze. We're going to struggle to get through this Tamiyo. We do have draws that help us. You know, a Fatal Push here is pretty good. We can push their creature, attack, get a Yuriko trigger, maybe drop a Bowmasters. And that stops our opponent drawing additional cards on their turn in a big way. Alright, so they've made their pile now. What are we looking at here? Psychic Frogs, Tamiyos, all the normal sort of stuff. Alright, Fatal Push would be our best draw, I think, here. Sink into Stupor. Our opponent's on 8. If we bounce their creature, we could also bounce their Thassa's Oracle. It's kind of an interesting one, isn't it? Alright, I think we are on the attack with our Yuriko. I hope they don't block plan. They're going to block, it's fine. And then we can try and sink into Stupor to... because this will work against the Thassa's Oracle, so we'll bounce it and then have to draw for next turn and lose. I think that is going to be better for us than the Orcish Bowmasters. Because if we play the Orcish Bowmasters, we ping them to 7. Then they go to 4 cards, so if they can draw all 4 of those cards without dying. So the Bowmaster doesn't actually do anything there. But if we hold open and sink into Stupor, that's probably our best shot here. Because they're going to have a Cavernous Souls line. So they're just going to windmill it straight into what we're doing. And maybe this surprise land will get it done. There's the Cavernous Souls. They must be going this turn if they're playing it out into a potential wasteland. We've got black mana open, so they're going to do it with 0 cards in library. Now obviously our opponent might have some different thoughts on how they're playing this one out. But I have to imagine they're going for it because of what they've done here. Alright. They're sacrificing the land. Sure. Street Wraith. So even if we play the Bowmasters here, they still don't go down to lethal damage. Alright, now it's another Street Wraith. So we might have been able to get them with the Bowmasters, based on the line they chose. A Thassa's Oracle. Problem is, we play the Bowmasters, our opponent just holds up and then can draw through their pile a bit more naturally. Right, so they have another turn now to try and get things going. But we have a Yuriko, and they no longer have Cavernous Souls available. Yuriko will not trigger because of their Tamiyo, which is a bit of an awkward one as well. What is our plan here? So Orcish Bowmasters doesn't do it here. I think we have to crack a clue. A Murderous Cut. Problem is, the Tamiyo has 1 blue pip on it. It's a pain. So this isn't going to deal any combat damage. This annoying Tamiyo. We can't really moan, we're playing one as well. All that happens differently if we play the Bowmasters there is our opponent takes 1 more turn off based on the pile they had. They have to go for it here. So they have to call our bluff. And unfortunately this has a single blue pip on it. But maybe our opponent doesn't know that and they scoop. It's unlikely. But yeah, so the 1 blue from the Tamiyo is enough to win the game. Unfortunate. If we would play like the Bowmaster, we might have been alright there. I figured they would be more likely to be playing around Bowmaster than the Sink into Stupor though. Alright, so Thoughtseize is a given here. Consign to memory, can hit the Thassa's Oracle trigger, that's really important. And then that's probably it. We do need to deal with some of their creatures. We do not require this Nihil Spellbomb, so that can go. How much removal do we want for their creatures? This is our removal suite. There's quite a lot in there. I think that's fine. I don't think we can trim any of these things because we kind of need them to set up this whole bunch of other stuff. Maybe we get to trim a Yuriko because 1 power is very bad into Tamiyo. I could see that. And we have to deal with their fair side. I guess that means we're probably losing something like the Ponders here. Alright, we can Island Ponder with an Ornithopter in play. A Yuriko and a Daze. Sure, I will take these things. So we have Yuriko next turn. We have a Daze if we need it for something. That will delay our Yuriko a turn. So I'd like to not Daze if I can avoid it. A Ponder, okay. That's not a thing we have to Daze, but they could go Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, and then we do have to fire off Daze. But if we can just untap after Yuriko is attacked, then I think we'll be in an okay spot. Now, the Yuriko attacks quicker than the Psychic Frog. The Psychic Frog is a better Magic the Gathering card, no denying that. But we get a draw now, and we need cards up front so we can deal with what our opponent's doing. We do have a land on top. But we can do things like putting the Murderous Cut on top with a Brainstorm, and then doming them for 5, which makes Doomsday lines a lot worse. We replay our Ornithopter in the second main phase in case we get some more ninja action next turn. A Dark Ritual playing around Daze. A Doomsday playing around Daze. Now our Daze can stop them from winning this turn, but we're going to have to... So we're going to go to 9 here. So we've got, what, 5, 6 damage locked and loaded. We're going to need to do a little bit better. We need to find an Ingenious Infiltrator to put in off of this Ornithopter so that we get 2 Yuriko triggers. And hopefully stack our deck in a way so the second one is enough to kill our opponent. But we can do that because we only need to deal 1 damage, really. Always found this art for Doomsday really weird. It looks like the Doom game to me. Maybe it's supposed to look like that. But... Alright. Have they bolded anything interesting here? No, deck's just good and doing its thing. Right, opponents made their pile. Now they're casting a Tamiyo. How do I feel about Tamiyo? It stops us from connecting. We're probably not getting anything else with our Daze here. That does stop one of our lines here. We're getting a Force of Will. Okay. 2 cards. We can put a 3rd card in, so it's going to cost both of our mana to Murderous Cut this. Not ideal. Consign to Memory. That is not an unhelpful one. Does suck that we have a swamp in play. Just going to get an island. So we want more cards in our graveyard here. Let's attack with both and see which one they block. I suspect they just block the Yuriko, because that's guaranteed damage. So I'm really scared of Ingenious Infiltrator hitting them for 2. That's what that is. So our play is now Consigned to Memory replicated on the Thousands Oracle trigger. A Street Wraith. Sure. They're at 3. So they might have a double Oracle pile here. They know we've got some tricksy stuff. They could have a single counterspell here. They could have a Thoughtseize. That's really good too. Look at this Tamiyo making us into an absolute clown. So if we'd played out the Psychic Frog earlier instead of the Yuriko, maybe that ends up better for us. So we can Consign to Memory the Tamiyo trigger when we attack, and then put the Murderous Cut on top and kill them with the ability there. I might be playing a little fast and loose with our Consign to Memory. Just a case of what sort of tools does our opponent have to work with here. A Brainstorm. They only had 2 cards left in their library, so surely drawing that extra card wins us the game. Alright, our opponent made a mistake with their pile, I think, there. But yeah, they drew an extra card. I don't know what it is that made us win the game there, but they did have 2 cards in library and drew 3, so that should have been the end of the game. Alright. Do I like Dauthi Voidwalker more than something like a Yuriko here? Kind of getting beasted by the Yurikos, just not doing anything. I guess we can try that and play just a more stock blue-black list. It's not exciting, but... Alright, we have Hand Disruption. We have no... Like, this being a basic swamp means that we don't have access to anything. Here we are on the draw. We have a lot of things that are good into this situation. We have the Thoughtseize, which is obviously great. Any blue source makes this hand really good. If we don't draw a blue source, what are we drawing? Drawing blue spells we can't cast. Yeah, I think we have to mulligan and be disciplined, but... Alright, this is a similar hand, but better, so that's good. Right, so we got mana here, we got this guy. Let me just get rid of the Brainstorm here. So we have turn 1, Thoughtseize, Ornithopter. Turn 2... Maybe we're supposed to keep the Brainstorm instead of the Daze here. Because we don't get to actually use the Daze, do we? Whoops. Another sink into Stupor, you say? Alright, opponent. What you got here? Doomsday is pretty good. Psychic Frog is also pretty good. I don't think we're beating the Psychic Frog here. As sad as that is. One problem at a time, I guess. Yeah, if we'd kept the Brainstorm instead of this Daze, we'd be in a lot better place. Still not a great place, but this Thoughtseize taking our Infiltrator is a real pain. Oh no, they're pondering first. I guess since they're the proactive deck here, they want to be pondering to find their stuff and then know if it's the right turn to be Thoughtseizing, rather than looking at our hand, seeing what answers they need, because they're not the answer deck. We're the answer deck in theory. We're still going to get Thoughtseized here. Alright, have a look at our terrible hand. Goodbye, only threat. They can attack with Tamiyo if they take the Infiltrator and get a clue, which is something worth doing. Alright, took one of our lands, so now they're just not attacking with the Tamiyo. They are attacking with Tamiyo, they're letting us get an Infiltrator trigger. Okay, that's pretty good. Block to make sure we take 0 damage. Okay. Not an island. Tap this. Turn into a threat. Like, we're still not in a position where we're leveraging that Brainstorm anyway. If we had it. And if we have an island for next turn, then we'll be grateful for that. Okay, tap the Tamiyo again. Right, so they have to pay 2 to get their card draw, whereas ours just comes free when our creature connects and it deals damage. So this race does favour us. We can also just hold open the Daze hard cast next turn. Right, we've got Brainstorm, we're just going to flip the Tamiyo. We can kill the Tamiyo with a Sheoldred's Edict, if that's what we're inclined to do. We can attack the Tamiyo for a little bit of damage, but this only triggers when it deals combat damage to a player. So we're incentivized to attack our opponent rather than attack the Tamiyo here. Ponder as well. We'd love to find an island so that we can actually use this Daze. Flooded Strand, we're going to see Dark Ritual Doomsday to really cap it all off. Just another Thoughtseize. Alright, so I'm going to take the Edict here and keep their Tamiyo. I think that's the most likely outcome here. They're not taking the Ornithopter and they're not taking the Daze here, surely. And I don't think they're taking the Cut. So it must be the Edict. Obviously, if we... Okay, they want to take the Daze. Okay, so that would have taken a Brainstorm in that situation anyway. So it ended up much of a muchness, as we like to say. What have you got, deck? Give me the goods. Consign to memory. Alright, we're going to attack. This trigger will still be here even if the Tamiyo isn't. So we may as well get our card first and see if it's a blue source. It is a blue source. Okay, so that means I think we get rid of the Planeswalker here. If our opponent sends it this turn, we can't play around a Daze, but I don't think we can just let the Tamiyo ticken up. Our opponent hasn't shown us the fast mana that you would want for a Doomsday line here. Blue, blue, blue. Nope, okay. They just tapped the wrong one. I think it's going to be black, black, black for Doomsday. There it is. So this is going to put our opponent to 5. We should have played the Ornithopter out last turn. Why didn't we play the Ornithopter? We might lose because of that. I was too focused in on the Edict. Absolute shambles right now. Right, they got a pile. Let's see what we can draw here. It wasn't a ninja. How many instances of Replicate do we actually want to have here? I think we are attacking. Another land. That makes me more inclined to ponder now. As an annual and shuffle. Daze is a handy one to have. Play out Ornithopter. Play out Vista. Go and get some islands now so we can't be jammed up by any random timings. Unlikely to be a thing, but we don't want to fight on the stack and have to crack stuff, and then they can then deal with something that's going on the stack. Alright, so we have Signs of Memory replicated twice, and we have Daze. We're going to see like a Consider or something here. No, Edge of Autumn, cycling, 3 cards left in library. One life left, 2 cards left in library. A Thassa's Oracle. Alright, let's try and kill this. Our opponent's definitely going to have some interaction. So they have 2 cards in their library, so this will not win them the game. And then we can kill them on the crapback. And if they've got a way of producing another Thassa's Oracle here, we can then consign and Daze that. Alright, our opponent's scooped up. I think they could have done a better pile there, but I am not very good at Doomsday, so I'm not going to throw shade at my opponent at all. It's a very difficult deck to play. And when we know all the interaction we have, it's easy to think what's going to beat this. But yeah, our opponent could have taken another turn of damage. So they could have made the pile slightly differently. But yeah, we managed to get there, so I'll take it. Let's go to round 2. 3, even. We're going to round 3. We need a land, but we have a pretty good curve of Ornithopter and Tamiyo on turn 1. We could play just the Ornithopter and use the Polluted Delta to have 2 looks at land. That is another option we have available to us. So we have some big decisions here. We can play a Tamiyo and start getting ahead on board that way, or we could use this to try and scry towards a land so we can have one of our things next turn. If we go and get a basic island for the Tamiyo, we're obviously not wastelandable, which is nice. If we go for this line and we don't find a land, then we're kind of cooked. I think we probably have to get the Surveil land here. Because once we start rolling with one of these, then you've seen how good Psychic Frog is in Legacy. So we're doing basically the same thing. Because quite often Psychic Frog is only pecking away for 1 or 2 damage anyway. So this is basically just a Psychic Frog that can't grow, but it scales up with other ninjas instead. Alright, our opponent's just played out an Underground Sea like this. This suggests to me an Entomb. Here it goes. Oh no, they're Fatal Pushing our guy. That's fine, I guess. This can go into the graveyard. Right, we missed on the land, and our opponent is going to know that now. I'm glad that we scried 1 card deeper towards a land, because that means next turn, statistically speaking, we should hit a mana source. But we're also available to draw cantrips and stuff. Cantrips or mana sources. Either one of those should hopefully lead to this game going okay. Also, they wasted a Fatal Push on an Ornithopter, and now we've got Tamiyo in play. So I feel pretty smug about that one. Our opponent Brainstorm and missed a land, so we're playing the same game as each other here. Let's attack with this Tamiyo. Because I don't want to get wasted off of colours, I'm going to get our other non-basic here. There's an argument to which one of these you're supposed to put in first. This one hits for more damage. If our opponents reanimate a deck, they might be leveraging their life total to cast cards like Reanimate. So I think hitting our opponent for more damage off of the Infiltrator, like more guaranteed damage, works. Like Yuriko can hit more. On average, it's going to hit more, maybe. But it only hits for 1 on its own. We have a lot of 1-drops in the deck. A Wasteland. A Nihil Spellbomb. That does not impact our deck. So our opponent is playing a Dimir fair deck like we played in one of the early rounds. I think that was round 1. Okay, we just keep bashing. A Daze. Okay, I don't hate that one. Let's go for a Tamiyo here. It resolves. I'm not going to play out the other Tamiyo. It doesn't seem like a great play. We don't have a good way of doing anything about this. We can just float the mana. Okay. But we are drawing cards at a higher rate than our opponent here. A Fatal Push on our little friend. So no to this one. If you want to fight, opponent, I'm willing to fight. Your Daze resolves. We have plenty of Tamiyos to spare. They got another Fatal Push? They do. Weird game, weird exchange of resources. Now we can answer the first thing they do with this Murderous Cut. Now they might just crack this Nihil Spellbomb for value. Now the Tamiyo, we do at the end step because they haven't played a land, so if they do have another Daze here, they don't get to replay the land and get some more stuff going that way. Alright, they do have another Daze. A Prismatic Vista. Let's attack with our Tamiyo. Another clue. Our opponent's going to block here. Right, so we're going to see if we need to be Orcish Bowmastering or cracking a clue here. Right, so we're getting Island this time around. I would like to crack a clue this time, I think. Let's try and dig to more lands. Kaito, it's not too bad. Singing to Stupor is a land. Let's get our Tamiyo. So their Tamiyo has to be on block, so we are just accruing advantage as we go here. We just play as tapped, so we can Bowmasters or we can crack a clue again. We've got an Ancestral Recall worth of cards to draw on board. So I think our opponent has a Bowmaster. I don't care if they Bowmaster 1 token there. I can't kill the Tamiyo. They just get a slightly bigger guy. We take 1 damage. You don't see many Bowmasters these days. Oh, it looks like I do have it. But like I said, we factored this in. We take an additional 1 damage, and they get an additional +1/+1 counter on their guy. And I'd much rather that way round than like our Brainstorm getting hit by it. Let's get the Bowmasters in. Check out theirs. So now, if we attack with the Tamiyo, they might not block. So maybe we're not supposed to do that straight away. No, they're going to block anyway. There are 1-mana ninjas. So now we're going to fire off this Brainstorm while we know the getting's good. Yeah, we have lots of good cards here. We don't really need this Tamiyo. And I guess the Tamiyo is just a very easy pitch to our Force of Will though. What do I feel about Spellbomb? Probably not the one. I'd quite like to hide this Kaito so we have access to it next turn. In case we get Thoughtseize. Alright. So now we get to flip our Tamiyo. We get to shrink their guys. We've got a Planeswalker on board. And a Bowmasters. More cards in hand. I'm feeling okay. I want to put 1 damage on the Tamiyo. That's fine. I'm not giving up my Bowmasters for that. Opponent has another Orcish Bowmasters. Let's say no to Orcish Bowmaster. Our opponent's scooping it up there. Okay, so we ground our opponent out. Like to see that. There's not really a matchup where we want to be doing Force of Wills that much, if we can avoid it. I'm not also into the Nihil Spellbomb. This is going to be a game of attrition. I would like some more removal spells to draw on. We don't have those. We have a threat that can take our opponent's removal spells. We have Engineered Explosives, which can take out some of their stuff. And then we're probably looking at Thoughtseizes, because this is a 1-for-1. This is a 2-for-1. We are just going to grind this game backwards and forwards until one of us comes out on top. So I don't really want to have 2-for-1s expending our resources at a higher rate than our opponents. Now, it is sometimes nice if you're ahead and you can just do some Force of Willing stuff. But we should just be able to keep drawing loads of cards and having a jolly merry time about it. Yeah, Tamiyo into Yuriko. All the legends. Our little Kamigawa theme deck over here. There is a risk that our opponent just Fatal Pushes this, but we don't have much of a better option. Because we need this to enable our other bits and pieces. If they Fatal Push this, then we can't counter the Psychic Frog. So we have to, because they're on the play, we have to at least try and have some more attempts at answering a Psychic Frog, which is what we're about to see here. No, blue-blue counterbalance. Well, we don't want that to resolve either. Counterbalance not actually great against us in a lot of ways because we have some weird mana costs because of all these ninjas. I think I'll take a Polluted Delta here. We can go and get Surveil land. Or we can Fatal Push a creature. Ponder from our opponent, sure. No Psychic Frog. Just get some surveilling on. We got a lot of land, so I don't mind if we lose this land to a wasteland down the stretch. A Daze. No, the usefulness of Daze is certainly fleeting at this point. Ingenious Infiltrator. We'll play out a Polluted Delta in case we need to have Revolt for our Fatal Push. Also means that they can't cut us off a colour with a wasteland. They kept a card on top with their Undercity Sewers. Ponder. That's probably what they kept on top. I would certainly love to have one of those myself. No further plays from our opponent. Interesting. So if we wait one more turn, we can play our Yuriko around a Daze. So I think we're just going to do that. It's all about making sure that we have the resources and we get to leverage them. That's what this matchup is all about. It's not about speed. You just want to be making sure that we're the one who gets our threats to stick. A Barrow-Goyf. Okay. Pretty strong Magic the Gathering card, the old Barrow-Goyf. It's going to get ourselves a basic. Let's fire in on this Barrow-Goyf. Right, it's gone. It's out of here. Psychic Frog. That is the best thing we can be doing here. Sorry, Yuriko. So if we Daze, we actually want to pick up our Undercity Sewers because we want the Surveil off of it again. Just that incremental slight advantage. We're going to see here. Fatal Push. But there's plenty more Psychic Frogs where that came from. Oops, all Psychic Frogs. That's what we're playing today. So next turn we can attack with Yuriko and Infiltrator. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be gassed right back up again. We get to draw 4 cards if they both connect. And that should be such a big hit of card advantage that we can ride the victory off of that. Things that can maybe get in our way would be something like a large Murktide Regent. Murktide Regent is a really good threat at the moment. When everyone's on Fatal Pushes, you just can't kill it. I think it's the undervalued threat in the format right now. Feels like our opponent's casting one as well. A Murktide Regent. Yep. I'm going to crack with one of these. Is that true? No, we have so many cantrips. It's not worth cracking them. Think into Stupor, you say. Let's go and find ourselves an island. Let's bounce this out of the way. I would very much like this spell to resolve. We should have tapped the Undercity Sewers for this so we could bounce it. If we have to Daze here. I'll say no to this one, I think. Do I? This feels like bait, actually. You can resolve that. This feels like they're trying to bait a counterspell out of our hand so that our Sink into Stupor doesn't resolve. Which one do we want? This one deals more damage. We'll play the one they know about, I think. That's the correct way to do it. Got an Ornithopter for next turn. Wow, they're dazing our Ornithopter. How do I feel about that? I think that's fine. Not exactly a high-stakes creature there. Yeah, so they did have the counterspell and they were trying to bait us out. I was right to let that Brazen Borrower go through. So they're going to go for a Murktide Regent again. We're going to ponder into, hopefully, a removal spell for it. We've got a few of them in our deck. Brainstorm in. If we tap this Swamp for something, we might be able to get the Murktide with a Daze. Unlikely, but could happen. Yep, there's Big Daddy Murktide. Only a 6/6 though. Slightly smaller than it was before. Alright, let's start with a Ponder. Not a bad way to start any turn of Magic the Gathering. Kaito, you say? Kaito is very good here. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Daze doesn't work here. If they have a Daze of their own, they've already gone through how many Dazes? 1. I think we just cast the Infiltrator this turn. Just for the iron price. Try and get some interaction out of our opponent. And next turn we can play Kaito around a Daze. We can take a hit for 6, knowing that we can put Kaito in uncounterably with a ninjutsu trigger. We can also wait till after combat damage and then put the Kaito in. So we get all of our cards. Or the Murktide Regent can stay back on blocks and then we can just play the Kaito around a Daze. They have high cast Force of Will mana here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does feel like high cast Force of Will mana right there. How are we supposed to deal with that? We can put the Kaito in uncounterably, so we lose one of these to tap this down. But then they play the Borrower, and then we're in a bad spot then. Let me just play the Tamiyo out, have more work, have more creatures to put in, cause our opponents some more problems. We know we've got a Yuriko on top, so they're going to play the Borrower this turn. So we play the Kaito around a Daze. But not... it's just this Force of Will that our opponent is representing is somewhat frustrating. They didn't play the Borrower. That definitely confirms in my mind that they were playing the Force. What have they got here that's worth playing 3 mana for right now? It's got to be good. No. Opponents changed their mind. Coming in for 6. That suggests to me that they're going to kill our creatures. I'll save a life. I'll save 6 life because we have another Tamiyo. Our removal is very bad on our ninjas in combat. It's going to be a Baragoyf. A Toxic Deluge, yeah. So I was correct to keep all of our creatures back. Yeah, so blocking there made sense. They started tapping for the thing. We got the information we needed. Let's have a Kaito here. We can daze this Brazen Borrower now. So the question is, am I playing the Tamiyo, or am I holding up Daze around our opponent's Daze to deal with this Brazen Borrower? I think I'm holding up the Daze and then playing around our opponent's Daze. Like, they've got to have something in hand. What do they have at this stage? I don't want our opponent to get paid out with a turn 10 Daze. That just seems ridiculous. We can play the Yuriko, and this will trigger off of the Kaito hitting next turn. Here comes the Borrower, surely. And crack in the Polluted Delta. We also get to reset our Undercity Sewers if that's what we want to do. We got paid out with a turn 10 Daze. Nice. An Orcish Bowmasters. Sure, that can ping down our Kaito if they want to. Let's just pump our ninjas here. We can attack with the 4-5. Veil first. And ground C, we don't need that one. We can't play both of these. We could play a Tamiyo. Just trying to work out what we're doing with our Kaito here. Like, we're attacking with it, obviously. Okay, so then we can play out a Tamiyo. Let's get a Yuriko down first, because that can actually kill one of these. So we'll play this one around a Daze. We have to decide if we want to play a Tamiyo into a Daze. If it isn't a Daze they have, then playing the Tamiyo out here is really important to keep our Kaito alive. Am I going to let our opponent get paid out with a Daze or playing this Tamiyo? Let's have a removal spell. They still don't kill our guy. No, I think we're okay here. Just a Borrower. They're petty thefting our guy. So even if they have a removal spell, like I said, they don't get to kill Kaito, they only get to deal it 1 damage. Thoughtseize. Alright, they can take our Yuriko now, which is getting increasingly large as time goes by. Kaito takes 1. Then we get to crack back for a chunk next turn. He's playing the Borrower now before we can draw any counter magic. This can't block Kaito, this can only block creature flying. Play Dauthi Voidwalker first. Half our opponent's life total. Tamiyo down. Am I casting this now into the Daze that we've been playing around this entire game? I don't think it's necessary. Pretty good match this one though. What's coming at Kaito? 2 flyers at Kaito, so we can't save Kaito. 1 Bowmaster coming at us. So we can fire this off and see if they get rid of, and see what they get rid of. If they do have the Daze here, that is going to be annoying. But we have a chance to save our Kaito here. And if they have a Force of Will and they tap it on their turn, that means that we can maybe slam something into our opponent next turn. They got rid of the Bowmaster, so we don't get to save our Kaito here. But we absorb 9 damage here, and our opponent is on 5, and we have a 2-turn unblockable clock. Wasteland doesn't do anything here. I guess it takes us off of hardcast Force of Will, but we boarded them out, so. There's an Orcish Bowmasters that our opponent has, if we want that. I think we ponder here. We put Brainstorm, Sheoldred's Edict, and the Yuriko. Attack both creatures. The Tamiyo becomes a Yuriko and they die. Boom. Alright. That was a great match, actually. Lots of back and forth. But we sort of showcased a lot of the good things that our deck can do. We grind very hard, right? We are drawing lots of cards and pushing forward our advantage over a lot of time. And we played this game slowly. We weren't trying to go fast. We were just trying to make sure that we exchanged our resources in a better way than our opponent did. And then towards the back end, you know, we've got these basics in play. So, you know, our opponent's drawing wastelands and stuff. They could have even boarded them out and it might have been all right. Although sometimes if you manage to nag the right thing at the right time, it's pretty good. Kaito was stellar, as always. Card is the nuts. All right, let's go to round 4. Island Ponder, I will keep this one. We're going to ponder our way into some stuff to get our Ornithopters turning into some real creatures. Prismatic Vista, let's go get our basic island. Ponder. I like the swamp. I like the Tamiyo. Just get some. I think we just put 1 Ornithopter here. An Urza's Saga. We don't really interact with Urza's Saga very much. A Vexing Bauble. Again, I don't think it's worth pitching anything to this. Our plan is just make Psychic Frog, do Psychic Frog things, show them the business with this Ornithopter attack. Hope they don't Manamorphose, Right Flame, Moderate Flame, Manamorphose into Wandering Emperor to kill my Ornithopter. Very unlikely to happen, but you never know. So, next turn, we've got the Sink into Stupor on the top, which means we get to put the Kaito into play off this Ornithopter. We can use that to surveil, or we can use it to tap down depending on what our opponent's up to over there. A Mountain. So I believe our opponent's playing Painter's Servant from this combination of cards. Painter's Servant is a good deck, really enjoyable to play, so our opponent is clearly a person of good taste. And they watch my channel, so confirmed, I guess. Red Elemental Blast. Blast. Well, that's one blast that's not headed towards... Yep, sure, another one of those. That's one blast that's not headed towards our Kaito. Now, you could certainly argue that Psychic Frog is better than Kaito. And you would probably be right. But we are going to play the Kaito. Get you. I think we're probably on Surveil rather than Emblem here. Do we need more lands? No. We drew one anyway. Cool. Oh, we can't play the Ornithopter into the Vexing Border, can we? Right, getting some tutoring. Is this the Grindstone already? Are we in getting whooped time? Oh, I said my opponent had great taste, but they're reusing this particular frame for the Grindstone. Yeah, we can't interact with our opponent's stuff, so there's no point in thinking about it here. What are we looking at? We want removal and stuff here. We have a Null Rod in the sideboard, which is a really handy card for this matchup, obviously. It gets to take out a whole bunch of our opponent's ability to play this game. We're going to be taking out our Force of Wills into the 7 Red Blast deck, or 8 Red Blast deck, whatever. Alright, they've got Dragon Engine, so they're on the grind plan of grinding card advantage, not grinding our library. So what are we trying to accomplish now? We've got this Kaito. Do we want to surveil and draw some cards? Do we want to stun this out so it never gets to do anything? Do we want to just attack first? Kind of a tricky one. I think... What, this is only a 3-4. I don't believe they're going to block here. That probably means... I think it's worth stunning this Engineer. Okay, so then we can get our Tamiyo down. Then we get a Polluted Delta, which gets us Undercity Sewers in a minute. And that can get us a little bit more surveil action and try and dig us into something useful. They can only Red Blast Kaito on their turn, right? Because it has hexproof on our turn as it's a creature. So you can't use creature removal to remove a Planeswalker. Obviously, Red Blast is just blue removal, but you get what I'm laying down. Alright, they are cracking the first bauble. We're getting closer to our Daze doing something. Daze does not seem great in this matchup. Undercity Sewers. Let's have a little surveil action. I do like a Brainstorm. We do have a bunch of bad cards in our hand. So we want to get our clue from the Tamiyo first. I think we're attacking. Are we trying to draw an extra card or are we trying to grow our ninjas here? I think we're just going to... I think we actually know. We grow our ninjas here. So that next turn we can tap this down again later without having to worry about getting jammed up by Goblin Engineer doing broken things. So we'll crack in for 4 and a clue. Then we'll Brainstorm, flip the Tamiyo, minus the Tamiyo in a couple of turns to maybe get back something like a Brainstorm or whatever. It's quite a big bite out of our opponent's life total as well. It does mean that we have a 3/10 clock. So I'll cast Brainstorm and try and get rid of this terrible Ornithopter. They could Red Blast this. It's a pretty good Red Blast target. These cards aren't great for us. Ornithopter is the worst one, and then it's probably the Daze. And then we're going to ponder and shuffle these away. Any order. Shuffle, yes please. Another ponder. We'll play this land out. So we could ponder and hold up. Yeah, we can ponder and hold up clue activation. Psychic Frog is nice. Yuriko is nice as well. Can't play the Tamiyo this turn. So probably just take the Frog. And we plus the Tamiyo. Alright. So next turn, we have to minus to keep the Engineer tapped to stop them drawing a bunch of cards. Painter's Servant. Well, well, well. Isn't our impending doom? Yeah, just going for it straight up. And we are dead. Okay, let's get a load of blue cards out of our deck. Alright, we definitely don't want Forces here. Yes, they're a combo deck, but it's so bad to get your stuff Pyroblasted. So these are good. Harbinger of the Seas is reasonable here. They have some nice colorless spells we want to counter. Thoughtseizes, Dauthi Voidwalkers, Faerie Macabre. These all have some useful text in this matchup. So I think we're just getting rid of Daze and Force of Will. We're not playing on that axis anymore. That leaves us 5 things to cut. I like the Nihil Spellbomb. I like all of the removal we have access to. Feels good. Orcish Bowmasters is one of the weaker cards here, so we could probably trim that and replace it with the Dauthis. That's just a much bigger upgrade. I don't think we want the Faerie Macabres, and we can probably just get rid of one Thoughtseize. Do I even want any Thoughtseizes? Would I prefer back to basics over a Thoughtseize? No, I think one Thoughtseize is fine here. A little puncture a little hole in it if we have that. We could go down on something else for it, but I don't think that's the way. I think just the one Thoughtseize is fine. We want to play this game with removal and then locking them out with things like Dauthi Voidwalker and Null Rod. So they can't use their graveyard, they can't use their artifacts. And then hopefully not die to as a Saga, which hopefully the Harbinger of the Seas will do that for us. We can play Psychic Frog on 2. That's pretty good. Alright, I think we keep this one. Not in love with the old Ornithopter here, but such is life sometimes. Right, let's play out an Ornithopter. I guess we play this and pay 3 life, and we don't pay 3 life for this one, no. We go, just save ourselves some life, because our opponent does have like a beatdown plan that they can execute. So we want to make sure that we're not just giving them freebies for that, especially if we're trying to null rod them. The way we lose is if they beat us down. Lightning Bolt on our Ornithopter. That wasn't doing anything because we didn't have any tools for it. Excellent. I will pay 0 mana to make our opponent discard their Lightning Bolt. So we crack this and we get a Swamp. We play a creature that dies to Red Blast. And then hopefully the Harbinger can take out Nurse's Saga somewhere down the stretch. You've got Explosives, which can deal with Saga tokens. Or, you know, all and sundry bits and pieces our opponent jams into play. They love to make different bits and pieces. Alright, so there is the Nurse's Saga. If they have a Red Blast, they want to snap it off sooner rather than later. Alright, that's what's happening here. We're getting Red Blast on the Frog. There it is. So the play here is draw a blue source, drop the Harbinger, and it becomes like a sinkhole creature. Okay, we didn't get to do that, unfortunately. Then we ponder here. I like these cards. It's kind of annoying that we have to do it this way, but do I want to pay 3 life so that I can consign to memory? Yes, I do. We can counter the trigger that lets them make constructs here. Do I think that is worth doing? I don't think so. I'm more scared of other stuff our opponent has access to here. And we already have the answer for the tokens. Just take out the Saga. So they get one mana. Sorry, they get 1/1/1. And then they lose their Saga. Not a bad trade. So that shuts off any additional Urza Sagas. So the beatdown plan is going to be difficult for our opponent until they get rid of this. This is a pretty fine card. But we get to blow up the token and the construct. To bash here. So we could look for another land. But if we don't find it, then we go shields down on the Consign to memory, which doesn't feel great. So I think we're just going to play a little bit safe here. Make sure we've got the Consign ready. We can use the Consign to kill this. Because we can counter the final trigger. So it never becomes a 2/2. It just goes to the graveyard then. Alternatively, you know, they've got a bunch of stuff we want to hit, whether that's Painted Servant, Grindstone, whatever. A Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Not a fan of this one. What are we doing about it? We can consign the 2/2s so they never get the 2/2. Then we're going to have to deal with these at some point. I think we're going to get rid of the 2/2 here. Because that just blunts our entire aggro plan. Let's cast this Brainstorm. A Yuriko, a Tamiyo. These are all pretty reasonable things to have access to. So what are we doing this turn? We're playing the Tamiyo. And then we're Undercity Sewering. Kind of want to have this additional black source. But I guess we already have the additional black source. Because we have the Undercity Sewer. Actually, no. Hold on. We don't get to do the surveilling. Unless we bounce this. And then we surveil. So we won't have double black down the stretch. How important is this to us right now? So you can always redeploy it. It's shutting down Ancient 2 mana. It's kind of a tough call here. So we put this on top. I guess we can use this as an island and play Tamiyo and Yuriko this turn. And just get rid of our Harbinger for a turn. It's probably fine. So we put 2 cards on top. We draw one of them off of our Yuriko trigger. Alternatively, we can just play the Yuriko or the Tamiyo. I don't really want to give our opponent this big burst of mana though. Okay, I think we're just playing the Tamiyo out, actually. Yeah, we could have kept the Ponder on top and then shuffled. And put the Brainstorm away, I guess. I want the Ponder still. Saga Lantern and Goblin Engineer have gone to the bin. Okay, so now they've got the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki up and running. So they're going to be able to copy some stuff next turn. Karn. Karn isn't very nice, is it? Right. What fresh horror is this? Is this going to be part of their combo? Or are they going for something else to get us? Twin Shot Sniper, that's cool. I haven't seen that in a hot minute. That's an answer to our Harbinger of the Seas. So this deals combat damage to a player. Not ideal. So how many cards do we know on top of our library? We're kind of locked under our own. We know 1 card on top and it's the Swamp. So I think we Brainstorm and take out this card they've just tutored for. That's a really annoying thing to do to people. Which I'm all about. So we do this. Oh, we're supposed to attack first, aren't we? We're just flipping this. Yeah, that wasn't the best. So now we want to ponder. Any order and shuffle. We drew the Sheoldred's Edict, which is pretty darn good. How much do we care about this Harbinger of the Seas? I really don't want them to have a Khan. Then we just take out the Planeswalker here. We can also rebuy that next turn with the Tamiyo. We're not... is this worth more to us? Because they're just going to cast it and clone it. And that's kind of annoying. If they want to trade when they already have the answer to it, I'm okay with that. Yeah, like I thought. Because we're losing this creature next turn anyway. So we can get a Sheoldred's Edict back if we want to. If they've got a land, they get to cast a Twin Shot Sniper and copy it. So then they get to kill our Tamiyo. And bash for a bunch. Yep, they got the land. So worst case scenario has been found. I think from Eternal Weekend, the stats on Painter decks versus like the blue-black tempo decks was like heavily favoured for the Painter decks. It was like gross how favoured it was. So I'm not surprised that we're also struggling against them here. Right. Not sure how we get out of this jam. Kaito. You're a good Magic the Gathering card. But our opponent has a Twin Shot Sniper. We can't kill that. We can try and make our opponent lose life somehow and then draw. If we attack with this, and they're just going to block with a Twin Shot. And then we get nowhere. We can Thoughtseize our opponent. But then we can't Yuriko. So we get to cast one of these spells from our hand. I guess a 1-3 doesn't look the worst right now, does it? I don't believe we're going to win this round. Vexing Bauble. Sure. So they get to make 2 copies of Twin Shot Sniper. We're just going to lose to this beatdown plan here. So they get to take out one of our creatures. So they could take out the Harbinger of the Tides, dome us for 2, and then attack us with 3 2/3s. Our opponent's thinking about it for a bit. A Grindstone. Alright, that's another access that we have to worry about. But given the state of the board, I don't think we can care about the Grindstone right now. There's only so much that we can... Alright, so they're going to be doing some Twin Shot stuff. They could also just copy loads of Reflections. What is our strategy? I honestly don't know how we win this game. Alright, let's Thoughtseize and see how bad it is on the other side. Okay, nothing matters over there. I just don't think we can overcome this engine right now. I think I'm just going to call it a day on that one and go to the last round. Alright, so that was round 4. We got pummeled pretty hard by the old Painter player there. But we got one more round to go. We're currently 2-2, so the positive is still on the board. Okay, we can keep this one. We got both of our basics. We can lead out with a Tamiyo. And then we can do some Bowmaster in or some Ponder in. The one downside here is we have to give up our Revolt to get this island, but that's fine. We don't have interaction with spells on the stack yet, but that's what Ponder can do for us next turn. We're unlikely to want to play the Bowmasters unless our opponent is playing Mana Dorks. So if they play a Mana Dork that we can kill with it, so like Noble Hierarchs, that sort of jam. Alright, we're just going to get our creature plowed. Oh no, it's going to be a pending. No, it is a plow, sure. Goodbye, creature. So we are in the market for playing this Bowmasters out because we want a creature that we can bounce back with Kaito. Because Kaito up and running against what could be like a Bant control style list is going to be very strong. So we're going to cast Raise the Alarm. That's what this is, effectively. Yeah, they get their Brainstorm off ahead of it. That's fine. Weirdly, we're casting this for the bodies rather than the effect, which is not normally how you see a Bowmasters used. That's the joy of Legacy. Loads of different interlocking parts that have different uses. All right, and they're gonna Brainstorm again. Wow, I want to see a lot of cards. So if we'd have played this Sorcery Speed, we might have been able to stop some of this, but we might have opened it up to things like Pending. We've also made our opponent use their Brainstorm suboptimally in the second one, so there is that. Now we get our uncounterable creature into play. So there is a question as to which of these we remove. Because obviously we don't get the token back ever, but we can redeploy this. I think we just take out the token here because the effect of the Bowmaster is really strong. I'm going to Surveil. I don't really think we want the Murderous Cut, but I will take the Tamiyo. Alright, opponent's got a land. We could be seeing green. Keen-Eyed Curator. Fun little guy. So we're probably looking at a list that has Green Sun Zenithing. That'll be my takeaway. Alright, let's just get rid of this creature. Sure, you can remove our Murderous Cut. Right, I'm just going to pump the ninja this time. Let's attack. We'll get Tamiyo out, and then we'll also deploy this Nihil Spellbomb in case that becomes relevant. So our opponent could be like a Nardu deck with like Nomads and Court of Calling, so they could kill us this turn. That's Nadu mana. I don't feel good about what's about to happen. I think this Nadu deck is actually really, really good, and people are sleeping on it a bit. Alright, it's a birds. They're playing Bird Tribal, I guess, or Kindred, I believe it's called now. What is the plan here? We could ponder first to see if we find a clean removal spell. If we brainstorm, it flips a Tamiyo, so I think just a Murderous Cut isn't too shabby, is it? We've got Force of Will we can leverage here as well, if necessary. So we can tap this down. It doesn't actually help us out that much. I think we're going to Surveil here. They'll probably put this underneath the Kaito. And if I remember rightly, we put a Daze on top of our library. We don't think we need this. The Yuriko is fine, to be honest. It's just more damage for next turn anyway. So flip this, plus the Tamiyo. So we've got Force of Will, blue card, and Daze with lethal on board. So our Kaito can swing for lethal on its own. I like the spot we're in, but this Nadu deck can do some pretty obscene Magic the Gathering stuff. Alright, I will let you brainstorm into my Orcish Bowmasters. Shows that they are desperate, which you can obviously tell from looking at the board state. And we managed to get there. So, what is useful against what our opponent is doing? Some hand disruption doesn't hurt. Our opponent's mana is pretty shocking. So we might be able to fight them on that axis. They don't use the graveyard. Engineering Explosives can pick up a bunch of mana dorks. That's fine. Perish can pick up a bunch of their guys. Dauthi Voidwalker not really for that. Consign to Memory, trying to counter individual triggers of the Nadu is a fool's errand, and I'm not going to be taking part in it. So we don't want the Nihil Spellbomb. How much is it given? How much do I like these Sheoldred's Edicts? I don't think the removal that doesn't target is actually where I want to be here. I think we can probably trim those. Yuriko is fine. Daze is a bit questionable with all their mana dorks. I think I'm going to strip out the Dazes here, and that probably leaves us taking out something like a Ponder here. Alright, we have some interaction. We have a threat that can really mess up their mana base. Yes, they are a blue deck, but they are kind of a green deck, really, that splashes blue. Ponder from our opponent. Now, this will obviously give them the ability to have access to their cantrips to find stuff to answer our Harbinger. But not being able to put any of their meaningful spells on the stack is certainly where I want our opponent to be. Right, let's power this Ornithopter. So we have a choice. We can either brainstorm looking for our ninja, or we can just get a little Surveil land out of the way. I think given the fact that we want to be playing this Harbinger, I think we go and get an island and brainstorm here. And then once we've done that, we can then get a swamp off the Polluted Delta, and then our turn 3 Harbinger will leave us with 1 swamp and 2 islands. Let's see if they get a basic or not. Do I care for this card? I think we're going to brainstorm first and see what shakes loose. Because if we find something like a Fatal Push, then we don't need to deal with this. Look what we found. It was a Fatal Push. Okay, I think we just put a couple of lands on top. That resolve. We attack with the Ornithopter. We're not putting anything in, but you need to always be attacking with this so your opponent doesn't know when you are putting stuff in. And then we'll kill off their guy that makes their things uncounterable. And then we'll sit here with double Force of Will. And hopefully, at some point, we're going to draw a win condition. And just hope that our double counter magic gets us there. Because their deck isn't great when it's not doing its thing, but their deck is very, very good at doing its thing. It's got Nadus, it's got Green Suns, it's got Court of Callings. It's going to find the things it needs to. This is not a deck you can just let do its thing. You need to be actually clocking your opponent, which is the next step of how we win this game. Alright, white mana, Nomads and Core. We don't care about that one. That is the weakest one. Like, Nadu is just a reasonable creature on its own anyway. We could shut our opponent off of white mana, or we could brainstorm looking for a threat. Sort of. Or found a threat. So we'll put back 1 land, and then probably a Force. We'll check this. It does nothing. But then we'll go and get an island and deploy the Tamiyo. Our opponent has maybe 4 Swords to Plowshares max in their deck as removal. Their deck is not about removing opposing creatures. A Dryad Arbor, sure. You can turn it into an island creature. That's weird. Sure, you can plow our guy. Our plan is Kaito at this point. Getting in the beats. 1 full damage from Nomads and Core. Let's attack. Let's get your friend of mine, Kaito. He is really the bane of nightmares. I think we're just going to go upstairs with the emblem for now. We want to force our opponent into chump blocks as soon as possible. This looks like Nadu mana. Our opponent's deck tends not to run much in the way of counter magic. Okay. So we had to get a win condition down, But it did come at a cost. What I originally wanted to do was bring back our Tamiyo so that we had a blue card for the double Force of Will. But now we just lose this game straight up. Because our opponent just gets to pop off here. We're not going to beat that level of card advantage that our opponent's doing. Okay. I like how we sideboarded. I think we just go again. The Daze has become better on the play. If that's something I'm interested in. Just having more interaction. Maybe I don't like those as much. I'm going to have the Dazes on the play. Rather than the shutting down all their mana things. Alright, we got Psychic Frog. We got a little bit of other stuff going on here. I think we lead off with the Polluted Delta so we can go and get the Undercity Sewers and try and surveil our way to a little bit more disruption, but we can always turn that into an island and mess with our opponent's plays if we need to. Right, no turn 1 play is good news for us. That might mean they're holding up for a plow or something. I will plow to defend our frog. Sorry, not plow. I will Daze a plow to defend our frog if that's what comes to it. I don't think we're about Ornithopter life right now. That tells our opponent that we either have something that we want to do, we already have that angle covered, or that we are not having ninjas in our hand. So our opponent is getting some information from us surveilling that. Alright, Psychic Frog. Be the busted creature we know you are. Win me this game. They could just get a Surveil land at end step here. They got nothing. That is very interesting to me. A Carpet of Flowers. Alright, you get 1 Carpet of Flowers. And then we can try and Engineered Explosives it away. Our Daze does not look super hot right now. White, white. So I think we're about to... Oh no, we're not going to lose our Psychic Frog. We might do still. Just 2 Nomads. This Engineered Explosives is going to be absolutely brutal. And I'm here for it. Right, so we're going to get Swamps. We got both of our basics underneath us. We cast this for 1 mana. Who doesn't love getting a 3-form with Engineered Explosives? What is your response, opponent? It's got to be good enough to beat my Daze as well. Minor misstep. We're going to counter this. I think we're going to bounce the Undercity Sewers. Our opponent's deck does not normally have forces. Well, that felt like a pretty good turn. I don't think we're going to pump this turn. Windswept Heath. And pass. I would like to see what our opponent's cooking with over there before we attack. So I can make the calculations of things like endurance. Sure. No endurance this turn. And our spell is countered. Understood, opponent. And a Brainstorm. Sure. So we're going to tap the Frog, get an additional card. And then we have more cards to Brainstorm with. We want to have some sort of action. Because our opponent will be... Okay, so we have some action. We have Force of Wills and stuff, so we're going to dig for more action. Okay, we found more action. Do I want this sink into Stupor? It could be useful down the stretch. This is kind of like a combo of cards that go with each other. We're definitely keeping the 2 Dazes. That's a given. Do we need another Psychic Frog? Probably not at this stage. And then we get rid of the sink. It is interaction though, so I'm kind of wanting to keep that. Maybe just get rid of the Yuriko and just try and ride this frog to victory. So we need to get another island so that we can do double Daze. So we may as well just get the Tamiyo out in front of stuff. Double Daze to beat whatever our opponent's up to. I think we're going to see a Hedge Maze this turn, or possibly a Meticulous Archive. It's the Hedge Maze. Put a card on top of their library. That doesn't bode well for us. But we have 2 Dazes. A Nardu Winged Wisdom. I hate it, but we're going to try and double Daze this. This is the card that's more important to keep out of play. Our opponent knew that was coming as soon as we fire off the first Daze there. Or maybe they just think we're trying to delay them for a turn. Alright, let's ponder. Our Tamiyo will flip this turn. Force of Will, very much happy to see you. Not so big about the Ornithopter. We've already played a land this turn, so if we put this one back, then we can get rid of it next turn with our Surveil land. Actually, no, it doesn't work because we're drawing extra card here, right? Just going to flip the Tamiyo. Tamiyo next turn can get back a Force of Will. So we're drawing the Ornithopter next turn, so that's just going to be frog food. Why couldn't Ornithopter be blue? That'd be handy. Swords to Plowshares on our guy. That's not where our fight is. We have another threat in hand. We need to stop them with their really busted... This is annoying. That's very annoying. Do we have a Fatal Push anywhere? Not. But our opponent only has 1 card in hand. Is that Ornithopter we knew we were drawing? Drawing. Okay, so they'd have to rip the card off the top to get exactly what they need here. So I think we are just on trying to end the game that way. Do I want this in play? I don't know if I want it in play. I think it's just having it as food for our frog is better. So we're just trying to ultimate Tamiyo, I think, is the play now. There's a big Green Sun Zenith, because that won't be uncounterable. Say no to this one. They only have white up, so there's no Veiled Summer that can help there. Swords to Plowshares on our guy. Sure. Alright, we'll plus this. we drawing a card with this? Or are we just playing out? I guess we can draw a card first. Would I most like to cast? Well, we're going to cast a Tamiyo here, so okay, we drew a frog. Cast Tamiyo. Let's cast this Ornithopter. And then next turn we get to draw half our library, and that's pretty good. Right, our opponent's scooping because they can't beat a Tamiyo Ultimate, so finish with the 3-2 record. We had some long matches, but we had some really good matches this league. We did get bodied pretty hard by Painter, but felt like we were in it for all the rest of the games that we lost. Or, sorry, the other game that we lost against Blue-Black Shell, I think it was. It was Doomsday, right? Yeah, Doomsday's going to be a tough... Was it Doomsday? I can't remember now. All right. Anyway, it's been a long league. So how do I feel about this deck? I think there's a lot to like about it. I think Kaito is really, really good. I think this is the reason to play ninjas is Kaito. Now, Psychic Frog is obviously a good card, and we're running more Psychic Frogs, basically. They're not as good as Psychic Frog, but the fact that they can be uncounterable is something. This particular build, though, I have some thoughts on. So, when I played the previous league, which I will link in the description below, we had the 1-mana Changeling, whose name I can't remember. Alright, Changeling Outcast, that's the card, I've just looked it up. So, this is a 1-mana 1-1 that is every creature type, so it's a ninja, and it can't block or be blocked. So, this is just a thing that just gets to go through, make sure that you can put your things in. But then also, once you've got your ninjas in, it can attack and guarantee you triggers. And I really like that. The problem with it, it was a 1-1. It wasn't great. Kaito changes that dynamic immensely. This gives you the ability to put +1/+1 emblems into play. So all of a sudden, your unblockable guy is scaling up every turn. And it becomes a real threat and a card advantage engine. And then in the sort of mid to late game, you could draw an Ornithopter, or you could draw like a 1-mana 4/4 that's unblockable. The scaling on that is really good. Now, obviously, we are trying to fit a lot of stuff in this deck, and you do need to have the 0-drop Ornithopter, right? Because you need to be able to have the ability to ponder and play an Ornithopter so you can do your ninjing. But we are lighter on the ninjas than previous ninja builds, right? We've only got 5 full-on ninjas, and then we got the Kaito, which is kind of a ninja. So we have 5 of these 2-drops. So the Ornithopter is even less important in this build than normal. So that makes me think that we probably don't even need the Ornithopters. We could just turn these into the Changing Outcasts, and that would probably be a significant upgrade. But I think if I was to play ninjas, first thing I'd do is probably wait for Psychic Frog to get banned, because then we can have a format where Blue-Black might not be just the best deck, and we might not just be doing something that feels like Psychic Frog but worse. So if we got rid of Psychic Frog in the format, which is probably going to happen in December, then all of a sudden you can play some more ninjas, and then you also get room to play your changelings, because you can kind of just swap these 4 slots for, or sorry, these like, I guess you kind of want the Ornithopters though is the problem. So maybe you swap these 6 slots for 4 of the changeling, and then 1 more of each of these ninjas, but then I also want more Kaito. We probably get rid of the Spellbomb, and then you have like 3, 4, and 3 as your numbers, and that feels a lot better. Obviously, we don't know if Tamiyo is going as well. It's a possibility. I'm not sure it's going to yet, but it's something that is probably going to end up getting banned at some point. Card is pretty bananas. But yeah, I think I like some of what this deck is doing. The one I played in the previous build, I like some of what that deck was doing as well. But I think where I would prefer to be is somewhere between the two. So I don't like the Retrofitter's Foundry stuff. I don't like that very much. I don't think it's where I want to be. 4/4s, losing combat to Psychic Frog. Don't want that in my life. Ornithopter, not always able to attack now, so that's also a consideration. So the other build we played had Retrofitter's Foundry in. In fact, I think I have it here, the build we played. Let me just tab over to it. Okay, this is the build we played before. So it only had 2 Tamiyos, and I think the Tamiyo is really good, and I wouldn't mind having more of them. The Changing Outcast, as a 4-of, I like this. Let's try and move these enablers over here. This deck doesn't play Orcish Bowmasters, but it has... Obviously, you need Spellbombs right now, but if you're talking about for playing right now, you have these 3 Retrofitter's Foundries, which I don't think you need. And we've got a nice selection of ninjas here. So we've got 9 ninjas, which is a much nicer number in my opinion. So you can turn these 3 Retrofitter's Foundries into like, I don't know, at least 1 more Tamiyo, and then you've got 2 more slots to play with. So if we're comparing that to this one, it's kind of similar. This build has less lands, but it has double sync into Stupor as well. So I think Ninjas is in a reasonable place right now. Blue-Black is just very strong, so even if you're not playing the best Blue-Black deck, you're still playing, you know, some of the best cards. And you do have access to, you know, the classics of Force of Will, Daze, and then you have some good removal and things. But being able to grind people out with these ninjas does feel pretty strong. And I like the fact that we can go over the top of the blue-black tempo decks as well, because we can just draw more cards of them. You know, what's better than Psychic Frog? Having a load more Psychic Frogs in your deck. But I do think we want the unblockable guy. That is the one thing I was missing this league, and that is a card that I've been very, very hot on since Kaito come. I like having 3 Kaito and at least 3 of the unblockable guy. Maybe there's a world where you even play 4 Kaito, because you can just use it more aggressively with your tapping creatures. And we are playing Force of Will, so you can always pitch them anyway, and Brainstorms and all that jazz. And it's a nice hit off the Yuriko because it's 4 mana. So, alright, I would like to try and play a build that leans more heavily into Kaito at some point and just really go for it and play full-on ninja sort of kindred with... I don't think you want Cavern of Souls, but there's the cantripping ninja, so when it comes in, it cantrips, and then for the rest of the time it's just a looter. Maybe we could really, really try going into full-on Ninja Town there. But yeah, I enjoy playing this one. I do enjoy ninjas. I think it's a deck that's got a lot of decisions, and it's quite fun to play. You get to draw a lot of cards, which is one of the best things you can do in Magic. And I think it's in a reasonable position right now. Now, I'm not expecting it to win Eternal Weekend or anything, but I think this deck is certainly fine to play, and you could play it in a challenge and not feel ashamed to play it, because we are running a bunch of good cards at the end of the day. You know, we are having to work a little bit for our Psychic Frogs. That's for sure. But I still think the deck is solid. We're playing a lot of solid stuff around it, and the stuff we're doing isn't just cute stuff. When this actually works, it is very strong, and it's not the hardest thing to make work. If we had some unblockable creatures, that would help too. All right. Oh, one other thing I want to say is I'm not convinced by this sideboard. It just feels like a lot of sort of disparate pieces that don't necessarily work the way I want to. Like, when are we boarding this Perish? Board it in against the Nadu. It's obviously good against Cradle Control. It seems fine, but maybe we could have a sweeper that's better. You know, like Toxic Deluge that we can board in against multiple decks might be better. Dauthi Voidwalker, I understand it's an unblockable threat, so it kind of makes sense here. But we are playing a deck that fetches around and plays basics. So black is actually more of a prohibitive cost. So I don't think this is necessarily where I want to be, because it leans into one of the weaknesses of our deck, which is also kind of a strength. It's a double-edged sword, where we can play around Wastelands really nicely, but then it's harder to cast a 2-drop with double pips. So I would consider swapping this out for something as well. I don't really like this split of back to basics in Harbinger. I kind of think I prefer to just pick one and have 2 of in the sideboard, and that frees up a little bit more space as well. But Explosives was good, and I like this one. The Thoughtseize, I understand why it's in there, makes sense, but if we're trimming here, we could maybe have a Force of Negation that gives us a little bit more against some of these scary combo decks. So there's a little bit of tinkering to be done, but the deck is fine. I enjoy playing it, and I hope this breakdown has been helpful for you and the donor who submitted this list to me. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.